Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta and you're watching Business 360, where we break down the numbers, connect the dots, and give you the developments and the insights you need to navigate, adapt, and lead. Let's dive right in. Philippine GDP seen rebounding to 4.6% in the fourth quarter, still short of the administration's rocking growth promise. Business groups call for real transparency reforms, warning the public will deliver on its own verdict in 2026 if nothing changes. Overseas, Filipino workers float a zero remittance day, a rare show of economic protest targeting the government's biggest lifeline. Bureau of Customs misses its full-year target, raising concerns tax revenues may soften as imports slow. AI's 2026 dark horse, a new generation of open-source chips, is poised to shake up the global tech landscape. The Philippine economy isn't stalling, it's just struggling to gain momentum. Philippine GDP is seen rebounding to about 4.6% in the fourth quarter of 2025. Economists at the University of Asia and the Pacific say holiday spending is providing a temporary lift to the economy, despite disruptions from a widening anti-graft probe. The outlook remains below 5%, making the Marcos administration's 6.5 to 7.5% full-year target for 2025, rather 5.5 to 6.5% growth target unachievable, with weak government spending and softer confidence continuing to drag on momentum. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, led by Governor Eli Remolona Jr., has cut interest rates to support the economy. Analysts at Nomura say that further rate cuts are likely next year as growth risks persist and inflation remains benign. The public is demanding to see where the money really goes. Business and civil society groups are pushing for sweeping transparency reforms as public scrutiny intensifies over corruption risks in big-ticket government projects. They urge the Marcos administration to implement 4 measures by 2026, including real-time payment verification, disclosure of beneficial owners, rapid audits, and a public monitoring dashboard. The proposals gain urgency after revelations that firms cornered a large share of flood control funds, many tied to incomplete or substandard projects. The group says stronger transparency and faster accountability are critical to restoring trust and protecting public money. Overseas Filipinos are protesting not sending money home, hitting the government where it feels it the most, remittances. The move revives the zero remittance day call, first seen during the 2013 pork barrel scandal, as a form of economic protest. Migrante International says this is a show of solidarity with protesters in Manila, denouncing questionable budget insertions and alleged flood control kickbacks. The group says support is expected from Filipinos in the United States, Canada, and Europe, the Middle East, and the Asia Pacific, even as government officials downplay any potential economic impact. Now, this story sends a chill through government, business, and investors watching the Philippines. Former DPWH Undersecretary Maria Catalina Cabral is found dead Thursday night along the Bued River on Kennon Road in Tuba, Benguet, hours after last being seen on the highway. Cabral is linked to alleged anomalies in flood control projects and resigned in September following a president-ordered probe. The ombudsman ordered the preservation of her cell phone and gadgets as cases involving other DPWH officials, lawmakers, and whistleblowers remain under investigation. The Independent Commission on Infrastructure calls Cabral a central figure with access to vital information and urges authorities to thoroughly investigate her death to rule out foul play linked to the anomalous projects. On another front, the Bureau of Customs is under pressure, revenues struggling to hit targets even as imports slow and corruption scandals make headlines. As of December 16, Customs collected 898.75 billion pesos, or 94% of its 958.7 billion peso target. They now cut full-year expectations to 939 billion pesos, citing slower imports due to the rice import ban and softer business confidence. Officials say improved collection efficiency helps offset declining import volumes, even as infrastructure spending and construction-related imports soften. A weaker peso is a double-edged sword as it slows imports but lifts peso-denominated collections, partly cushioning revenue shortfalls. Now, interest rate cuts are meant to lift vehicle sales, but Filipino consumers are still holding back. November sales slid 8.7% year-on-year to just over 37,000 units, with passenger cars taking the biggest hit. Commercial vehicles, which account for around 4/5 of the market, remain resilient. Meanwhile, electrified vehicle sales neared 4,000 units, pointing to growing interest in cleaner and more efficient mobility. Chamber of Automotive Manufacturers of the Philippines President Romel Gutierrez says the industry remains optimistic, adapting to lower rates, still elevated prices, and shifting consumer priorities. Now, what's happening in classrooms today will shape the workforce of the next decade. Philippine grade 5 students are struggling in reading and math, and for the business community, this signals deeper talent and productivity challenges ahead. The 2024 Southeast Asia primary learning metrics show only 14% of Filipino students reach high reading proficiency, the second lowest in the region. In mathematics, just 26% achieve high proficiency. The study points to textbook shortages and inadequate funding as key drivers of poor outcomes. More than half of students still lack full access to textbooks, slowing basic skill development early on. For employers and the economy, this means longer, more costly road to building a work-ready labor force. Education officials say they plan significant increases in textbook procurement to improve learning outcomes. With the 2026 national budget now in its final stretch, the government's anti-corruption drive is entering a more serious and more sensitive phase with real implications for markets and investor confidence. Authorities have stepped up enforcement in alleged ghost flood control projects, including arrest warrants and non-bailable charges in a 96.5 million peso project in Davao Occidental involving contractor Cesara Sara Discaya. This follows the death of former Department of Public Works and Highways Undersecretary Maria Catalina Cabral, a key figure linked to ongoing probes into flood control spending. For business and investors, the question now goes beyond the headlines. Is enforcement credible, consistent, and strong enough to change behavior without freezing execution and undermining confidence at a critical moment? Joining us now is Philip Hagedorn, the President and Chief Investor Engagement Officer of the Atram Group. Hi, Phil. Thank you for being here with us.
Hi, Maiki. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's always good to get a temperature check from Atram. Let's start with a reality check. After about 200 basis points of rate cuts since the third quarter of 2024, growth is slowing and it's still fragile. From where you sit, Phil, where is our economy today?
Yeah, well, growth is anemic, right? I think growth is, but it's growth nonetheless. So we have to look at the positives, that we're still growing. The last number was below everyone's expectations in terms of, and really below our potential, I think, no? In the end of the day. And I think when you dive down into the numbers, you see where the problem is. The problem was really in the investments part of the GDP numbers. No? The capital formation and investments part was well below where we expected it to be, and it's obvious why. You don't have to get into those details.
Yeah, it's obvious why you said that. One thing that we've got going is that the 2026 national budget is in its final stretch. Marked cuts in the Department of Public Works and Highways budget. That's a 40% reduction. There are concerns after GDP really softened in the third quarter that Q4 GDP will still be below expectations, below 5%. How are we going to get back on track with GDP with such big cuts in infrastructure spending?
That's a great question. And, I think, let's think of 2026 as 2026. It's not every year after that, right? And what's going to happen next year, I think, with the budget, what we're seeing, first of all, we're going to see a lot more transparency. That's what's expected about how we're going to be spending money in 2026. So that's one. Two, we're going to see a higher number than we saw in 2025. It's going to be 5 to 7% higher. We don't know a lot of the details at the moment, but it's going to be higher than it was, which is also good. There's going to be less money towards infrastructure. Why? Because that's our budget. That's our money. We don't want money to go to waste. So we got to fix the holes that were there because we cannot ignore infrastructure. That is the alpha of GDP. That is what gives us
That push.
push towards 6, 7, 8%. And we will get there, but we cannot allow the holes that existed to continue to exist because our money will just go to waste.
Absolutely.
So what's going to happen next year is they're reallocating money. That 40% cut in infra will go towards public services, education, healthcare, and that can be executed also very quickly by the LGUs. So it's going to be a real partnership between the LGUs, these education and healthcare initiatives, and that will get our GDP growth back above 5, I think.
Yeah.
Not to the 6, 7, 8s yet, but at least stabilized. Because I'll tell you one thing, Mikey, and I saw the outlook of 4.6% for fourth quarter. It's going to be way lower than that.
Okay.
Okay.
Ouch.
It's
What are your
that.
projections at Atram for
Oh,
Q4
man,
GDP?
we think it's going to be closer to the 3%
Ouch.
for fourth quarter.
Okay.
But we have a chance of making that number irrelevant.
Yeah.
You know, we have a chance because we won't know that number until sometime in, maybe second month of next year, Feb, maybe a little later than that. So by the time they announce that number, if we have a good plan for the budget and the focus is now on how that gets spent, then it won't be so important that our fourth quarter was weak.
Yeah.
Because we're not spending on infra, et cetera.
Yeah.
So let's see. But we're expecting it to be quite weak.
Yeah.
And definitely weaker than the 4.6%.
Yeah. Given this, the expected weakness, you're the Chief Investor Engagement Officer for Atram. What's the beat on the street? How are investors reacting? What's behavior like today, given the soft patch in GDP?
So for a Filipino investor, and that's who our clients are really, it's diversification first. So making sure you have global diversification in your portfolio, which, again, thanks to our regulator, we're allowed to do in this country.
We have that latitude now.
We have that latitude to invest globally. So, one, having a global part of your portfolio for 2025 was a key narrative. And those that had peso investments, I think the fixed income space had provided good returns this year. We have interest rates coming down, but that's adding to the return technically, right, in the short term. So returns in fixed income have been decent. Stock market, we know, has struggled. We're at 6,100, hoping to end the year with a bit of a Santa Claus rally, but we know that there's cheap value there. And I think that might be the story for 2026.
Yeah. What are the realistic expectations for that Santa Claus rally? We should be seeing that.
It's going to happen. I mean, honestly, since we hit the lows in November, I think our market low is 5,700. We've rallied almost 10% to 6,100. Quietly, right? Nobody.
Yeah.
It's been a quiet rally, but we're back at 6,100, and the question is, what's the outlook really for next year as far as, earnings for the market, which will still be single digits, we think. It'll be a single-digit growth year, so nothing spectacular, but growth nonetheless. And then we want to see some green shoots in the consumer sector and the property sector. I think that's what's been missing, and if we start to see some green shoots there, then I think we'll be in for a nice little rally next year.
Okay, I want to bring to fore some recent developments over the past 24 hours. People are fatigued with the corruption headlines, but we've had twin developments. Last night, the arrest warrant issued on government contractor Sara Diskaya, and then this morning we got word of the sudden death of former DPWH Undersecretary Cabral linked to the flood control issues. From a capital markets and investor confidence standpoint, what do you make of these developments, and how might they affect confidence moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I'm that surprised, right? I mean, I think these are, you're dealing with issues that are, very, this breaks the law, right? And when you deal with those type of folks, it's a challenging situation. So I'm not surprised, and I don't think, it's affecting the market today, for example. I think the bigger news, the more important news is first that the President Marcos has said, we want to pass the budget.
Yeah.
And last 3 a.m. yesterday morning, I think the BICAM adjourned with an agreement.
The final stretch.
And hopefully December 29, that's the day where they sign off on this thing, and we have a clear path for next year.
Yeah. How
he also
important
said
is this?
arrest. So
Yeah.
let's see, arrest before Christmas, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, the
there.
passage of the 2026 national budget, it being in its final stretch, how significant is this for confidence today?
It's absolutely critical because it would have been an absolute disaster if we had to
On
reenact
top of the low, yeah.
what got
reenact
us into the problem
last
in the
year's,
first
yeah.
place. I mean, can you imagine
Yeah.
how that would have looked? So this is a first step in moving forward, picking up the pieces and moving ahead. And I think, we have the money, we're not struggling, we can raise the funds. We don't want to waste money in areas that need to be addressed. So next year,
Yeah.
it's going to be healthcare and education that will be in the forefront of growth. But infrastructure will come very soon after that again.
Yeah, that's what we're all looking forward to. From headline to signal, how do we reprice the governance risk? What do investors need to see so that they can, so governance risk to the Philippines is
I think
repriced?
it's all about enforcing the law once again. I mean, we've done it before, let's do it again. It's as simple as that. I think when we enforced the law back in the early 2010s, we had the most significant stock market rally.
Yeah.
After that lasted, a long, long time.
Enforcement, yeah. Hopefully, this is just the beginning. People are worried that, as in the case in 2023 with the Janet Lim Napoles pork barrel scam, they go after the lowest hanging fruit. And sometimes the buck stops there. How worried are you that I mean, how worried are the markets that accountability might stop there? You think it will? We hope it doesn't.
I'm not an expert in that.
Yeah, but in your opinion?
I just find that you have to follow the process of the law, right? And if the process tells you that the evidence is here first, then you go where the evidence is, and then we'll see where that brings
And this
you.
is the start. You start
you
with
have
the
to
easiest.
start. You cannot-
And then hopefully it goes up to
Well,
the enablers in politics.
Let's see where it goes. I mean, to me, it's enforce the law, bring out the evidence, enforce, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Okay, as we look back at 2025, the year that almost was, we're almost at the end, what was the defining theme for investors, Phil?
I think I said it earlier, it's diversification. If you're an investor, if you're thinking where to put your money in, because we've had a fantastic market rally in the developed world for stock markets. I mean, the US is up in the high teens, Europe is up, 30%.
Yeah.
Hong Kong is up in the 25.
And globally, interest rates are headed lower.
Interest
That's the
rates are headed
direction.
lower, and if you're a Philippine investor and you didn't participate in that, well, it's important that you know that you can. Don't feel bad you didn't, but there's time, and
There's time.
you can participate in those global markets. So that's one defining theme. I think the message for 2026 is don't forget the Philippines, because I think this is going to be the story.
Yeah.
Those markets are very highly priced. The valuations are priced to perfection. Everyone is worried about earnings and making sure earnings are hit on a regular basis. While in the Philippines, we have a historically low PE multiples with earnings growth. And if we can, get our economy moving again, we're in a sort of a buy low scenario at this point.
We
in time.
will. Exactly. Don't forget the Philippines and buy low. Okay, what's the smartest way for investors to stay engaged in 2026 without taking on unnecessary risk as we look to the Philippines?
Oh, that's like the holy grail, right? In my view, you'll never be engaged unless you have skin in the game, right? So buy some Philippine stocks, buy Philippine funds, get engaged, because that keeps you informed and it keeps you. Now, I'm not telling you to throw the house and lot in there, right? But
Yeah.
diversification, but make sure you have an allocation, because the Philippine market has a tendency of, it's had a 5-year drought. We can all admit to that. But when it moves, it moves. And the ingredients are there for 2026 to make that type of year exciting
All
for
right,
us.
I like that. The ingredients are there for 2026 to make that happen. Phil Hagedorn with Atram, the Atram Group. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to your bottom line. Welcome back. Softer inflation is resetting rate cut expectations in global markets. So let's see how Western markets closed and what those moves mean for trading here across Asia this morning. Wall Street's main indexes closed higher as a softer inflation reading boosted expectations for Federal Reserve rate cuts, while Micron's upbeat forecast signals strong AI-driven demand. The S&P 500, Nasdaq, and the Dow rebound from recent lows as easing price pressures and steady labor data lift investor confidence. European stocks also finish in positive territory as investors position ahead of the year-end central bank decisions. Let's check to see how Asian markets are doing this Friday morning. Right now, the Nikkei 225 is in positive territory, up by 1%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index higher by 0.4%. Shanghai's Composite higher by 0.1%. And Singapore's Straits Times Index flat with a very slight downward bias. Here at home, taking a look at the PSE Index as of 10:21. The main gauge is in the red, trading to the downside by 0.1% to 60.24. All shares index lower by 0.4% to 34.32. Taking a look at the sub-indices, the financials, industrial, services, and mining and oil counters are dragging the market lower, whereas the holding firms and property counters are slightly limiting those declines. 121 million shares have been traded, valued at just a little over ₱1 billion right now. Market breadth, however, is bullish. We've got 63 advancers, 58 decliners, and 55 stocks unchanged. On the currency front, the peso opened at 58.62, the greenback down from its previous close of 58.56. Artificial intelligence is fueling a major shift in the chip industry, challenging the decades-long dominance of Intel's x86 and ARM architectures. Open standard RISC-V chips gain traction for their flexibility, geopolitical neutrality, and the ease of adding customs instructions for AI and data center applications. Chinese firms like Alibaba and Huawei, along with global players such as NVIDIA, are backing RISC-V, signaling rising industry momentum. Market research projects RISC-V could surpass $260 billion by 2030, with the performance gap versus incumbents closing by early 2027, proving that sometimes the underdog can shake up the giants. Now, as we close out the year, it's easy to get caught up in the headlines, the challenges, the corruption probes, and the market volatility. But through it all, one question still matters most. What keeps us rooted in the Philippines, and what still makes this country worth believing in? This December on Business 360, I asked respected business leaders to share a short message answering what they love most about our country. Today's first feature comes from T.G. Limcauco, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Bank of the Philippine Islands, one of the country's most respected business leaders, sharing what he loves about the Philippines this Christmas season. Here is his message.
I love the Philippines for the great untapped potential that we have. Great demographics, a very strong spirit that allows us to continue to move despite calamities, controversies, and problems. We have a genuine willingness to help each other. And for that, this country should really be way up there. And I think one day we will get there. So that's why I love this country. And from all of us here at BPI, to everyone out there, to every Filipino who dreams of a better life, Merry, Merry Christmas and all the best in 2026.
Up next is a business leader who has built Dunlop Tires Philippines into a key player in the country's mobility and automotive sectors. Chris Chilip is known for his entrepreneurial drive and his commitment to strengthening local industry. Here is his message.
What do I love about the Philippines? Hands down, it's the people. They are the kindest, selfless, most generous people in the world. I personally had the experience of their kindness when I was rescued by a group of Filipinos when we crashed in the top of Mount Makulot. A group of Filipinos of all ages ran up the mountain in the middle of a rainstorm to help us. We were complete strangers, but they risked their lives to help us down. Up to this day, I am forever grateful and blessed to live in this beautiful country surrounded by these beautiful Filipinos. I'm forever grateful. Thank you.
And And that's it for Business 360. I'm Maiki Oreta. Thank you for joining us. And keep it here on BNC, the Billionario News Channel, and have a good weekend.